My friend, have you ever felt your heart racing for no reason? A sudden rush of fear so strong it steals your breath, locks your body in panic, and leaves you helpless? If you've ever experienced that overwhelming wave of anxiety, I want you to know you are not alone. But let me tell you something. Fear is a liar. It tells you that you're trapped, that you'll never get better, that something terrible is going to happen. And the worst part, in that moment, it feels so real that you believe it. Today, I want to talk to you about panic attacks. Not just what they are, but how you can break free from their grip. If you stay with me, I promise by the end of this message, you'll walk away with a new understanding, a renewed sense of peace, and a strategy to overcome fear once and for all. Maybe you've tried everything, medication, therapy, distractions, but still find yourself caught in that cycle. But what if I told you there is a greater power available to you, one that can give you lasting freedom? Because, my friend, you were never meant to live in fear. Now let's begin by understanding why panic attacks happen. Panic attacks can feel like a sudden storm that comes out of nowhere, gripping the mind and body with an overwhelming sense of fear. The heart pounds, the chest tightens, breathing becomes shallow, and for a moment it feels like the world is closing in. Some describe it as feeling like they are dying, losing control, or on the verge of something catastrophic. But what exactly is happening in these moments? A panic attack is the body's response to a perceived threat, except in most cases there is no real danger. The brain sounds an alarm, flooding the body with adrenaline, preparing it for fight or flight, even when there is nothing to fight and nowhere to run. The confusion that follows makes it even worse. The more a person fears the attack itself, the stronger it becomes. It can happen in the middle of a crowded room or alone in the stillness of the night. It is unpredictable, which is why so many live in fear of the next episode. Panic attacks often create a cycle. Fear triggers the attack reinforces the fear, and the mind begins to expect another, making them more frequent. The enemy here is not just the symptoms, but the belief that they hold power over you. Understanding this is the first step toward breaking free, because when you realize that a panic attack, no matter how terrifying, cannot truly harm you, its grip begins to weaken. Fear does not come out of nowhere. It has roots, deep, hidden places in the heart and mind where worry, past experiences, and overwhelming stress take hold. Panic attacks are often the result of a buildup of anxiety triggered by something the mind perceives as a threat. Sometimes the cause is obvious. A traumatic event, ongoing stress, or deep-seated fears that have never been addressed. Other times the trigger is unknown, but nothing just happens without a reason. It could be unhealed wounds from the past, constant worry about the future, or even exhaustion from carrying burdens too heavy to bear. Even physical health plays a role. Poor sleep, nutritional deficiencies, and even shallow breathing can set the stage for anxiety to take over. Some people experience panic attacks as a result of unresolved emotional pain, stress that has been ignored for too long, or even a spiritual battle happening within them. The mind and body are deeply connected, and when one is out of balance, the other responds. But here is the truth. No matter where panic attacks come from, they do not have to control your life. The first step is identifying the triggers and understanding the root cause, because when you know what is fueling the fear, you can begin to take back your peace, step by step, until you are no longer a prisoner to the panic. Fear is powerful, but its greatest weapon is deception. When panic strikes, the mind becomes flooded with lies, thoughts that seem real but are far from the truth. Something is wrong with me. I'm going to die. I'll never be free from this. These thoughts feel undeniable in the moment, but they are nothing more than fear's attempt to keep you trapped. The problem is that the more you believe them, the more they take root, shaping how you see yourself and your future. Panic thrives on deception, making a temporary feeling seem like a permanent reality. It convinces you that because you felt afraid today, you will feel afraid forever. That because your heart raced, something must be wrong with you. That because you struggled before, you will struggle again. But none of this is true. The body may react with fear, but fear does not define who you are. The enemy wants you to believe that you are weak, that you are powerless against these attacks, but the truth is, you are stronger than you think. Your mind has been trained to expect panic, but just as it learned fear, it can learn peace. Every time you replace a fearful thought with truth, you weaken the grip of anxiety. The lies may come, but they do not have to control you. When you begin to recognize them for what they are, you take the first step toward breaking free. Fear may seem overwhelming, but it loses its power the moment you confront it with truth. Panic attacks feed on uncertainty, on the belief that something terrible is about to happen. But the truth is, fear is not in control. You are. The key to overcoming panic is to replace fear with something stronger: faith, courage, and a renewed mind. Faith reminds you that you are not alone, that you are not powerless, and that fear does not define your future. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward in spite of it. Every time you choose to breathe deeply, to stand firm, to remind yourself that this moment will pass, you are taking back control. And renewing your mind means rejecting the lies of fear and replacing them with truth. When fear whispers, "You can't handle this," the truth says, "I have overcome before and I will overcome again." When anxiety tells you this will never end, the truth says, "This is temporary and I am stronger than I feel right now." The battle is not just physical, it is mental, emotional, and spiritual. But the moment you stop running from fear and start facing it with truth, something shifts. Panic no longer dictates your life. Fear may knock at the door, but you don't have to let it in. Because the more you replace panic with truth, the more freedom you will find. There is a difference between surviving panic attacks and truly living in freedom. Many people go through life managing their anxiety, avoiding triggers, and constantly bracing for the next wave of fear. But you were never meant to live in a state of survival. You were meant to live in victory. True freedom comes when you no longer see yourself as a victim of fear, but as someone who has overcome. It's about shifting your mindset from what if it happens again to even if it happens, I am not afraid. Fear may try to return, but it no longer controls your choices, your peace, or your future. Living in victory means walking with confidence, knowing that no matter how fear tries to rise up, you have the tools to stand firm. It means recognizing that a moment of anxiety does not define you, and a racing heart does not mean you are weak. The key is persistence, continuing to replace fear with truth, continuing to take small steps forward, and refusing to let temporary feelings dictate your life. Fear may have had power over you in the past, but today is a new day. You have the strength to rise, the wisdom to fight back, and the faith to keep moving forward. The grip of panic attacks is not stronger than the power within you. Step into victory, walk in peace, and live the life you were meant to live. Free from fear. Fear may have tried to hold you captive, but it does not have the final say. Panic attacks are not a life sentence, and you are not powerless against them. You have been given the strength to overcome, the wisdom to recognize fear's deception, and the tools to break free. Every step you take toward peace, whether it's controlling your breathing, challenging fearful thoughts, or trusting in a greater truth, weakens the grip of anxiety. The road to freedom is not always instant, but it is possible. You do not have to live in fear of the next attack, because you now know that fear cannot control you unless you allow it. No matter how many times panic has knocked you down, today is an opportunity to stand back up. You were created for more than a life of worry. You were created to live with peace, strength, and confidence. So take a deep breath, step forward in faith, and walk in the victory that has already been made available to you. Fear is a defeated enemy, and today you take back control.